Now, this may be an increasingly youthful party, I'm feeling it too, but its hero Jeremy Corbyn is in his late 60s and the party's leader is not the only pensioner that's being lauded here. Also inspiring the faithful is the octogenarian award-winning filmmaker Ken Loach, who has become the Labour's in-house filmmaker.
I want to thank Ken. Here he is. I want to thank him for his life of dedication to social justice.
And Ken Loach joins me now. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned your age so early on, should I? It's impolite to a woman.
I wouldn't ask you, would I?
No, I hope not.
Well, there you are.
I'm not as old as you, I'm just going to say that.
Okay.
Not quite.
Not many people are, but there you go.
Yeah, so are you feeling it here when there are so many young people here? Why are you and Jeremy Corbyn, two pensioners, being lauded so much by all these young people at the Labour Party conference?
I don't know, you'd have to ask them, wouldn't you?
But what is it, do you think, that's inspiring a youth movement from people like Jeremy?
I think people know that they're being ripped off. People know that there's a conscious cruelty by this government against people who are vulnerable, insecurity for housing, insecurity in their work.
And yet, employment, because
students are suffering a massive debt. Yet every group of people in society are really struggling. And I think people have finally woken up to the fact, and they realise that Jeremy and John McDonnell have policies that will deal with these issues.
What about the fact that employment is at its highest? Unemployment, as you know, is extremely low. There aren't dole queues out there that young people can look at and think, well, gosh, thank God that's not me. Isn't that something to be celebrated?
How many working poor do we have?
You tell me.
How many living in poverty? 7 million. How many food parcels were given out through charities last year? Do you know?
No.
1 million or more. 500,000 children didn't eat unless they got food parcels from a charity handout. Are you happy with that?
Well, and
no?
people aren't happy with that, but do you think you should also be celebrating record employment?
Well, what kind of employment? A lot of jobs are massively insecure. The gig economy, as they call it, means workers at labour is turned on and off like a tap. So people will be rung in the middle of the night, get in for 6 o'clock for a shift. If they don't go, they don't get paid. If they don't go, they won't get work in the future. You know, this is a society built on insecurity, exploitation, and being ripped off by one of the harshest governments this country has seen.
Well, you talked about the conscious cruelty. There'll be many people who will say, well, are you implying that Conservatives and people who support a Conservative government are consciously cruel?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
you know the minds of all those people that vote for the government?
I know what they've done. I know what the government has done. I'm not saying the people who vote for them, maybe they don't know. Maybe they read the Daily Mail by mistake. But the government knows that the people are forced to food banks. When the government imposes sanctions on people who have no other money, and what are they going to do? How are they going to eat? They know they're going to go to food banks. And you have Squire Mogg saying how uplifted he is by people having to go to charity food banks.
Right.
I mean,
but you are coming...
Sorry, if I can just finish this. They know they are imposing hunger on people who are vulnerable. If that's not conscious cruelty, then you tell me another word for it.
Right, but you do come from a particular perspective that you would expect.
Well, everybody does,
well,
even
of course.
you.
Well, yes,
even,
that's true.
Even
but I have
BBC
to show impartiality on
these
shows. Well, we'll get into that on another occasion.
Okay,
but, you know, you do, and your films take a certain line and a certain perspective. It isn't in the round. I mean, you have given those examples of food banks, people struggling, the welfare state, but you accept that the welfare state also helps millions of people.
Well, it used to. I think there's a big question.
It doesn't help people now?
Well, to an extent, but there's a big discussion about that this afternoon, I think, isn't it, about social care, you know, about the disabled people who are left abandoned in their houses.
But it also helps millions of people back into work. It provides for millions of people in sickness and old age.
I'm not sure it does help them back into work. It may be chastises them. It may be makes them suffer for their unemployment. I mean, you look quizzical. Is this your objectivity?
No, I'm not looking quizzical. I'm looking interested, I think.
Well, I thought you were looking quizzical.
Don't impose on me what you think I'm thinking at the time.
Your expression indicates it. That's
all right. Well, let's talk about something else and see what my face says then. A rule change being debated today about discrimination. Do you think that's necessary, that rule change, for the Labour Party to say that it is against discrimination between party members on sexism, on racism, on anti-Semitism, Islamophobia?
Well, I've been going to Labour Party meetings for over 50 years. I've gone to trade union meetings, I've gone to meetings of left groups and campaigns. I have never, in that whole time, heard a single anti-Semitic word or racist word. Now, I'm not saying it certainly exists in society.
We interviewed the Labour MP Ruth Smeeth, who said she had really come up against anti-Semitism.
Yes, well, it's funny these stories suddenly appeared when Jeremy Corbyn became leader, isn't it? I mean, presumably it's gone on for decades. I wonder why it suddenly appeared now.
They would explain that, say that perhaps Jeremy Corbyn has allowed the oxygen for those sort of views to be, yes, you're right, they were already there, but the oxygen's allowed.
I think that's absolute mischief.
Why do you think it's mischief and not truth?
Because Jeremy Corbyn has been a long-time supporter of the Palestinians and the injustice that is done to them, their theft of their land by the Israelis, and the massacre of people in Gaza, the blockade of Gaza, the ill treatment of
actually risen so much.
Because I think their aim is to destabilise Jeremy's leadership, and this is what it's about.
Labour MPs within the party are trying to destabilise them, and they are to some extent confecting these stories.
I'm saying that this story there is no validity to it. In my experience, no validity whatsoever, and I think you'd have to provide better evidence than has been provided so far.
Right. I mean, there was a fringe meeting yesterday that we talked about at the beginning of the show where there was a discussion about the Holocaust. Did it happen or didn't it? Is that the sort of discussion?
I don't think there was a discussion about the Holocaust.
Well, it was reported and it was on the very fringe, but would you say that was unacceptable?
I think history is for us all to discuss, wouldn't you?
Say that again, sorry, I missed
History is for all of us to discuss. Even what all history is our common heritage to discuss and analyse. The founding of the State of Israel, for example, based on ethnic cleansing, is there for us all to discuss. The role of Israel now is there for us to discuss. So don't try to subvert that by false stories of anti-Semitism.
Why a rule change needed then to stop discrimination?
I'm not sure it is.
OK. I'm going to have to end it there, but thank you very much for joining us. That's it for today. Thanks to all our guests. Thank you for ending the programme with me today. The 1 o'clock news is starting over on BBC One now. Bye-bye. News is starting over on BBC One now. Bye-bye.